Good morning, good morning, good morning, students. Thank you for attending Power of Study Groups workshop. We really appreciate your presence. My name is Mangaliso. I just want to make a quick announcement before we can start. Note that this is a live event and then it is also being recorded and then it will be available on the YouTube channel. We will share the link with you on the Q&A session where you can access all our workshop that we are hosting as a KZN Counseling and Career Development Unit. One second. Sorry for that. Yeah. What I was saying the event is live. It's being recorded as well. So don't worry. The link for YouTube channel will be shared with you where we normally upload all our recording for counseling and career development events. And also note that since it is a live event, your mic, your cameras are muted. So you cannot unmute yourself or you cannot open your camera. You just have to listen to the presentation. However, you still have a say on the presentation because we have this. If you look on top of your desktop or laptop, there is a Q&A. There, if you click there, it will give you an option to type in your question, suggestion, or comment regarding the presentation. Please feel free, student, to use that Q&A session. The counselors are available to answer your questions there, but make sure that you ask something that is relevant on today's presentation. So yeah, feel free to use that platform. It's how we will communicate with you in terms of answering your question that you might have regarding this presentation. So thank you so much once again. I will now give it to my colleagues to introduce themselves as well. Dumelo, please, you can start and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Smangaliso. Good day, student, and good day, colleagues. My name is Tumelo Mukwena. I'm a student counselor. I'm based in Pietermaritzburg office. Thank you.
Thank you, Tumelo. Zuziwe, please.
Good day, students. Good day, everyone. Welcome to our workshop. My name is Zuziwe. I'm a student counselor. I'm based in the Durban office. Thank you.
Thank you, Zu. And then we have an admin intern that is with us, of which is Mobile Masugu students. She's an intern at Counselling Unit in Durban campus. Unfortunately, she cannot open her mic since she's currently using her desktop. But we have Mobile as well in a team. She will be assisting with technical support, attendance register, and evaluation. At the end of the presentation, we will share the evaluation link for you to complete so that we can hear from your side how can we improve our presentations in future. Please do fill that evaluation for us. Mobile will share that with you. Without wasting any time, I can see now we have more than 360 students. I will now hand over to our today's presenter, which is Dr. Sharifa Hendricks, to start the presentation. Thank you so much, students, for your presence.
Thank you, Sma, and thank you to my team for being here and for perfect. All right. So again, welcome. Today's workshop is the 6th in the first year experience series that we've been doing for the past couple of weeks, and it's entitled ODeL and the power of online study groups. The main objectives for this particular workshop is to understand why study groups are important, also to help you explore what the purpose of a study group actually is, and to see how you use study groups as a study technique. We're also going to look at why and what makes study groups so powerful. And then lastly, I'm going to look at helping you to start your own study group. So why are study groups important in distant learning? Well, there are several number of reasons, and I'm just going to try and put some of them in a nutshell for you. So as we know, in an ODeL context, there's a sense of isolation that students often feel, right? Because students tend to feel disconnected, they feel alone, they lack that social interaction that one would get in a contact university. And so that makes them very unsure about how they're going to go about their study. They don't even know whether they're on the right track. They don't know when to submit assignments. They don't know what the assignment needs to contain and so forth. So when you look at getting a study group together, this particular way of learning helps to reduce the disconnection, and it creates a connection between the student and others, as well as students and the campus. Now, the use of mainly online teaching and learning groups also makes it very, very difficult, because the idea around study groups is that because most of our work is done online with you, the group will bring together like-minded people. Obviously, people who are studying the same modules or the same courses will come together, but there's also like-minded people who will kind of just click with each other. Many times we find students find it extremely difficult to understand the work. Remember, you're coming from a trick. Some of you have worked for many years, you haven't studied. And so you might find it very difficult to study from a distance where there's no lecturing, there's no interaction, there's no connection with other students. And so you may have many, many unanswered questions, but when you have a study group, this makes it much more easier for you to be able to navigate your way to some of the challenges that you're experiencing. It also helps with the volume of work and the volume of information, because it helps you break down the volume of the work through the interaction that you have with other students, or the fact that you have so many other students helping out study the same chapter, perhaps, or the same module. I recall with a group who used to study management, they found it was a theoretical subject that was very, very difficult to get their head around, because they were more kind of numbers inclined. And so when it came to theory, they were really bogged down by it. So we developed to help them develop a study group. And what they did was they had 10 chapters. And instead of one person doing 10 chapters, there were 5 of them in a group, and each of them were given the task of doing 2 chapters, assemblies of 2 chapters each, which broke down that 10-chapter volume quite a bit. And then they would come together and, of course, teach each other that content. But I'm going to go into that when I show you how you go about forming a study group. So a study group can also work to pick you up, especially when you're finding that you don't have any motivation to study and it's actually slipping, especially towards the exam time. Many students feel that the motivation that they had in the beginning of the year or in the beginning of the semester is no longer there, right? Mainly because other members in the group might be experiencing the same challenges as you, and they might be more encouraging if you, as opposed to you being completely on your own. So why are study groups important in this distance learning? Remember, it will expose you to different ways of thinking, as well as different ways of learning. It'll also provide you with a safe place to develop and discuss your ideas. It'll provide you with support and motivation for learning. It's also a really brilliant tool that'll help you develop metacognitive strategies, right? It increases your self-confidence. It helps to ease exam anxiety. It'll help you to also learn to work as part of a team, a concept that many of you need to get your head around, because that's the way the world of work actually works. So down the road, when you're going to have to start working in a team, your initial study group will give you a sense of working with different personalities and different challenges within a group setting, which then prepares you for your workplace one day. It also provides awareness of the different perspectives that individuals might have, as well as in that way indirectly promoting diversity. So the purpose of the study group really is to help you to refine the understanding and to refine your understanding of the study material. In open distance education contexts, as I said, there's a lot of isolation and disconnection between students, and students often feel alone and alienated. So through study groups, it reduces the sense of isolation, because now you're establishing what we call small learning communities through these study groups. It also helps you to find support from other students who might be going through similar challenges as yourself. And as I said earlier on, it improves study habits because now you're starting to feel motivated with other students. Remember, if other people are like-minded like you, other people are experiencing similar challenges as yourself, it starts making you feel less anxious about yourself and how you are feeling about your studying, because now you're not alone any longer. You've got other members who are experiencing the same thing and can give you the support. In fact, you can give the support to each other and you can encourage each other along the way. So what makes study groups so powerful? So this objective of the workshop really is to get your head geared towards being motivated to start your own study group. I'm hoping that when you see how powerful a study group can be, it's going to help you to want to actually start your one immediately. So being part of a study group helps to avoid the one thing that many of us are very guilty of, and that is procrastination. Study groups can also help you to develop as a student, as a person, as well as a professional. It'll encourage every member of that team to start thinking creatively and to build strong communication skills. And this in turn is going to help you to refine your understanding of whatever study material that you're having to study. It'll also help you to know whether you are on the right track, because it's going to build a comprehensive understanding through your interaction with the other people and gaining their understanding of the study material. You will understand the module content. Remember that when you study in a group, your awareness is increased, especially about the areas that need more review and more practice. When you explain something, think about this, when you explain something to someone else that you've learned in class or that you've read in your study material or in a textbook, you start beginning to think a lot more deeply about it, because now you're beginning to explain it. And the uncanny thing is that when you explain something to someone else, you are more likely to retain that information and be able to recall it at a later time, because now you've broken it down and you've now operationalized the concept. You've actually made it more practical in your mind. So it's much more easier to recall as opposed to trying to recall all of the textbook jargon, right? It allows for a lot more a deeper level of understanding rather than a surface level knowledge. When we just read things and we don't comprehend what we're reading, we're sitting with surface level knowledge, right? So the idea is when you interrogate the information, you then try and explain that information to somebody else. Not only are you breaking it down and making it more understandable and comprehensive for yourself, you are also making sure that you are retaining that information for later on. Remember that through discussion comes lots of debating, disagreements, and then a common understanding. So when you discuss the content with others, it helps to then retain that information for you. And of course, like I said, through those discussions, you get what we call the recall of information being much more easier. So you also learn to be critical about what you've read, because it's not just your own mind that's interrogating the information, it's someone else. And in fact, sometimes even more than one person that is debating with you. So this also in turn helps to improve your problem-solving skills. You also notice that by thinking more deeply about what you've learned and then you're explaining it to someone else, you yourself get a better understanding of the information that you've learned. And why does this happen? Because when you explain or teach any idea to some other person, it means you have to actively think through it first before you can explain it to someone else. Right, so the idea around it is that everyone in that study group is going to share and they're going to discuss different ideas and different perceptions, and that then in turn deepens critical understanding and thinking of the subject matter. Now, study groups also help, like I said earlier on, it helps to divide the work amongst a number of people in the group. And I gave the example of the 10 chapters where you can then summarize large volumes of work and then share that work with each other. Teaching and explaining the information and concepts to other group members will also help you to reinforce your mastery of the information as well as the concepts, because when you teach it to others, like I said, it develops and as well as strengthens your own understanding. Remember, watching other people explain to you as well helps you understand things better. It also gives you the opportunity to allow other people to speak, to hear other people's versions and other people's opinions and perceptions about information. You may also find yourself becoming a lot more committed to your studying because other group members are depending on you. When you share information or the volume of the work between you and you are responsible for a particular part of that information, you know that it's not just yourself that you're going to let down. There are other people that have agreed to meet with you and are waiting for you to bring on your part of the work, right? So you're not going to want to let them down, right? Remember, when you do a piece of work as well and you bring it to the group, you can compare the notes that you've made with the other group members, and then you can clarify and you can fill out any other gaps that you might have. The other part that makes groups so powerful, sometimes when we sit alone and we study, we grapple with difficult concepts. We may read a paragraph over and over again. We may find that we don't understand what we're reading. Even if English is your first language, you might find something that you're reading just does not make sense. Study groups are powerful in that the group members there are a variety of different people with different intellectual levels, they have different backgrounds and different experiences. They are likely to understand something that you may not have considered before, right? And they are able to explain it to you in a way that you may not have understood it yourself had you done it on your own. So let's face it, right? Studying is very boring for the majority of us. But when we're with group members, and I'm not saying the group members must be, the group study group must be a place where you're socializing. But when you're studying with a whole lot of other people, everyone has a common goal. Everybody wants to pass, right? So everybody might be going through the same challenges or different challenges, but the point is everyone's going through some kind of challenge. So it doesn't feel alone. It doesn't make you feel as though studying is not enjoyable. It makes studying a lot more enjoyable because now you've got more than one person within that group to share your misery with and your joy as well, right? Makes sense? So having a study groups is it's a wonderful way of learning more about a topic, about learning new ideas or exploring new ideas in a topic. Remember, when it comes to also doing any kind of assignment, you are able to not plagiarize, right? It'll make sure that your understanding is reflected through your writing because you have thrashed this out with a group of other people prior to that. So I'm going to move on now to how you're going to form the study group, right? So I spoke to you about the purpose, spoke to you about why it's so powerful, and through that, the rendition of the power of study groups, I also looked at the benefits for you. Now, starting a study group is not something we do or take lightly. It's something that has to be really a formal process. You know, it can come in many different ways. Some people prefer to put it out there on Telegram. Others want to advertise it on campus and leave their number for people to contact them. It depends on you and what you are comfortable with. Some people are not comfortable sharing their cell phone numbers. Others feel more safer if they do it via Telegram or via Facebook. Some even do it on our groups here. Right, you'll find people. That's why we mute the chat. People will try and connect with each other. So you have to be very careful when you're putting a study group together. Firstly, when you're choosing to do a study group, I think it's important to decide where you're going to study it, where you're going to advertise it. You also need to decide how many people do I want to be involved in my study group. It can be anywhere between 3 and 7. Some people go as far as doing inviting 10 people to the group. 10 is a little bit difficult to manage. But what I always advise is if you start off with 10, you end up with 7 because there will be people that will drop off. What you're wanting to ask is the student doing the same course as myself? Are they doing the same module as myself? It doesn't have to be the same course, but they might be taking the same module as you. You want to ask, how motivated is the student to do well? Does the student understand the subject matter? Is the student a person that I can depend on? Is this person tolerant of other people's ideas? And do I want to work with this person? You know, can you see yourself gelling with this person? So often I say before that big first formal meeting, have an informal meeting with people, either online or on a campus that's near to everyone. Now, we usually advocate for online groups because remember, our students stay in areas that are very far away from their nearest campus. So online groups in distance learning works actually better. But again, it's totally up to you. You might decide to get people that live around you. That's also perfectly fine. That could also work. Next, you're wanting to develop a list. Once you've asked all of these questions of the people that you want in your group, you're wanting to develop a list. And in that list, you're going to include things like the person's name and surname, maybe even their student number if you want to make sure that they actually are a student at university, at your university. You're going to want to have a list of all of the modules they might be doing to see, who has modules in common. They might want to form their own groups. You want their cell phone numbers and, of course, their email addresses. You're going to take that list. Once you've compiled that list, you're going to distribute that list to all the members of the group, right? You may even get everyone to kind of verbally agree to some of the rules of the group. And you can decide together as a group what those rules of the group would be. So what are some of the characteristics of a study group? Remember that in a study group, you're going to get quiet members, right? But it's important to make sure that every group member is an equal contributor to the discussion, that every group member feels that they have been heard when it's their turn to speak, and they shouldn't be interrupted. Make sure that every person has a chance to speak one at a time. There shouldn't be, remember when you do it online, it's very difficult to come in sometimes because you don't know who's going to speak next. When you establish that rule at the very beginning that we will give each person a time to speak, or we'll give each person an opportunity to be heard, that will become the rule of the group, and group members need to decide and contract to that. There needs to be respect in every group, no matter what the group might be. They must respect one another, meaning that you respect the opinion. You may not agree with someone's opinion, but you have to respect the opinion. Every member should be able to engage in critical discussion, but you do not need to criticize the other member in the group. It's important that quieter members are brought into the group. They are asked about their opinion. If they don't have anything to say, you don't need to force them. They may come in at a later stage when they do feel more comfortable with the group. And group members should be feeling free to ask each other any questions that they might have at the time. Now, I mentioned the location being on-site or online. You need to make that decision. Do I want to meet online? Do I want to meet on-site? Remember, you are starting the study group. So people who are keen to start to join online will join you, and people who are not will not. They will probably prefer on-site, and that is fine. You work with what you have. There's so many different platforms. There's Zoom, there's Google Meets, there is MS Teams, there's even WhatsApp video call that people use, there's iMessenger. There's a number of different platforms that one can use. Select a meeting place, though, that everyone has access to, right? And it must be a platform that doesn't have too many interruptions. Right now, I think Zoom works really well. Teams works really well for most people. Also make sure that if there's an option to turn off the camera, remember that data is a massive thing for students. So meeting online can be quite costly, but if you turned off your camera, you won't use as much data. There's someone called a moderator in a group, and I'm going to take you through that just now. The moderator is the person that will send the meeting link to all members. And if it's on-site, obviously you can use any available space, whether it's in the library or an empty classroom. Now, the moderator, okay, this is chosen at the first session. You as the group leader can decide whether you want to have a moderator or not for your first session. It's obviously strongly advised that you do, because the moderator is the one that's going to ensure that the session starts on time, that the session is recorded. You can decide, do you want the same person to be the moderator at every group session? You can also decide how often the group is going to be meeting, whether it's going to be every week or every 2 weeks. You can also put the moderator on rotation. And a good idea, the reason why that is a good idea is because every person, even the quieter ones, get an opportunity to do things in the group, to participate in the group, right? And that's obviously then fair to everyone else. Remember that the moderator his or her job is to draw in people that are quieter, who haven't contributed. They keep everyone in check. They make sure that everyone's opinions are heard. Because, like I said earlier on, it's very easy to talk over people when it's on when it's an online platform, right? But the moderator is the one that's going to keep track of, for example, emoji hands that are raised, or of people in the chat that are asking questions we haven't had a chance or we're not seen. The moderator has a very important role. It's almost like the person that's the technician or the technical person in that meeting. I strongly suggest that each person gets a turn to do that, and that is not just one person. Otherwise, it tends to start feeling like they're being bossed around, right? The next step you're wanting to do is to set an agenda and goals for the session. Now, group members decide on the goals of the study group. You may have, very broad goals in the beginning, and then you break them down into more specific goals. As you're reviewing what it is that you're wanting to cover in that particular module. So a goal means determining specific content that you guys want to review, or the concepts that you want to discuss. So you can set a goal together ahead of time. So like the week before when you met, you can set a goal then. And then when you meet again, this is the goal for this particular session, because then everybody knows what they need to prepare for that session. Your goals can include, comparing and updating notes, discussing readings, preparing for the exams. You can use past exam papers. It's important that everybody is clear on what the goal is going to be. If some people were not present at the last session for whatever reason, then the moderator obviously will send the goal of the following session to everyone in the group. Before the session, the agenda is compiled. What I like doing, or what I like suggesting to group members, that after each study session, decide the agenda for the next session, decide the goal for the next session, mail that to everybody so everybody is clear. Each week or each time you meet, you're going to list the sections that you're going to want to cover, and then you're going to share that with everybody in the group so that everybody can prepare, right? Now, you might think, why are we making it so formal? Remember, when you have an agenda, everyone is then very clear in the head what they're going to be doing. But the most important part, though, is that if somebody has to commit an hour or 2 hours, sticking to an agenda means that you can stick to the hour that you're actually allocated for that study period. You can also take turns to decide who puts together the agenda. For example, you can list what readings you're going to cover, the assessments you're going to discuss, and how much time you're going to spend on each. The moderator is the one that's going to ensure that the study session goals are going to be met for each of those sessions that you meet. So what are the responsibilities of the members that come to form part of your group? Remember that every person that commits to being part of a study group needs to come there prepared for every session. You can decide as a group as well. If people are coming unprepared for every session, how many sessions are they going to be given a chance for? Maybe 1 session or 2 sessions. By the 3rd session, they get kicked out of the group because it's not fair to the other members who are working hard and who are preparing, especially when you are dividing work, for example, where you're not just trying to explain concepts, where there's volume of work and you're wanting to get summaries out of people, and if there are 6 people in the group, only 3 people have done the summaries, and the other 3, continuously don't meet the goals and do not come prepared to the group. You may decide, listen, guys, you're going to get kicked out the next time you don't come prepared. So it's important that every member comes prepared for the session to explain the concepts to other group members. It's only fair to everyone else. They must complete tasks that are assigned to them. Each member must do this, and they must actively participate in the session. Now, I said earlier on that the moderator will draw out more quieter members of the group. Obviously, you can't They can't keep on being quiet members in the group. After being drawn out 2 or 3 times, they need to be active participants in the group. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense that the same people are the ones who are speaking in the group. Remember that if you're given a task to do a summary, ensure that the content you have is easy to explain or teach to others. Make sure that you complete whatever assigned readings you have so that you can also contribute to the discussions. Every member needs to be committed to every study session in order for the group to be a success. If you're finding that the group is dwindling after a certain time, bring that to the group's attention. Sometimes people are going through personal stuff, and that might be the reason why they're not contributing. Maybe call the person aside and check with them. Do they want to still be part of the group, or are they finding it difficult to be part of the group? And maybe they want to be excused, but they don't know how to leave the group. But if you speak to them, it might become a lot more clearer for you. Next, what are some of the things you need to avoid? So don't let the study group get distracted from its agenda and the goals of the study group, right? If the goal is that we want to obtain a certain percentage in this particular study module, remember what you need to do in order to achieve that, right? Make sure that the study group does not become a social group. You can socialize after the group, right? If you're wanting to connect with other people and do things, make sure it's done outside of the group. Don't start talking about personal stuff during group time when that's supposed to be dedicated to studying content. Do not allow other group members to attend unprepared. I'm going to refer you back now to the rules of the group. One of the rules would be every single member of the group needs to come prepared. And say to them to stay in this group. You have to carry your weight. You have to bring in your fair share of the work. Don't let the session become a negative forum for now to complain about Unisa, to complain about the lecturers, to complain about the different apps and so forth. Because then that makes you become bogged down by things you can't change or things that you can't control. Rather, maybe put something together and look at how, if it is a major issue that's hampering your work, maybe come together, put together an email and look at who can I direct this email at, because this is a common problem that we are all experiencing and it's impacting our studying and our studying time. Don't allow 1 or 2 members to dominate the group. This is a common thing that happens in groups where you find that some people want to show everyone else up, so they're the ones that speak the most in the groups and they don't give other people a chance to speak or to share their opinions. It's really, really important that every member that's in the group is given an equal opportunity to participate, because you'll find that when people are not given an opportunity to participate, that's when the group starts, dwindling off and people no longer want to come through. If you want your study group to succeed, you have to be open to other people's opinions. Like I said, you may not agree with it, but you have to be open to it. The most important part of a study group is listening to what someone else has to say and what their ideas and opinions are of anything, right? The purpose obviously is to expose yourself to other people's opinions, to newer opinions. And this, like I said before, also deepens your understanding of the topic. You can disagree, but you can do so respectfully. Things that you need to remember when you're putting the study group together: the group must be kept small. I like saying do not include friends into study groups. If you are able to make sure that you have good boundaries and that your social lives are not brought as a discussion topic into the group, because it can be a huge distraction and it can make you go off the rails or off the task at hand. Make sure that you start very early in the semester, if you haven't started already, because I think when group study starts very early in the semester, you have time to sift through some of the challenges and the problematic areas in a particular module. Don't start 1 week before the exam. You're actually then wasting your time. Make sure that it's part of your regular academic routine. Meetings should be maybe every week, like I said, or every 2 weeks, depending on group members' time. Make sure that you stick to a meeting time that works for everyone, and make sure that when you are looking at a particular module or maybe a particular section of the work, that you say to the group, okay, it seems as though this particular section is going to take us 6 weeks. Are you prepared to meet for the next 6 weeks for an hour at a time online, and so forth, right? And we can decide at the end of those 6 weeks whether we need to meet further to do some revision or to go through exam papers. Make sure that you aim for a manageable amount of time for each meeting. Members are far more productive if you keep the time limit to at least 2 hours and not more than that. Make sure you're learning how to work with your study group online, because this will help you develop valuable skills for the future, especially in workplaces where people are working remotely and they're working with teams online. You're going to have to learn how to work with people in this way, right? I think that brings us to the end. I'm just going to do a bit of a recap of all of the steps of the study group formation. So let's just recap. When you form your study group, you're going to invite about 3 to 7 students to participate. You're going to pick a time, right? You must establish a meeting time that is agreeable to everyone. You must maintain a manageable amount of time that you're going to meet, not more than 2 hours, because like I said, people are productive mostly for those 2 hours. Afterwards, the attention starts going down. Choose your location. There are several different ones. Choose one that is accessible and available to everyone. Make sure that you don't use cameras so that you can bring down the cost of your data. Make sure you have an agenda and a goal for each of your sessions. A goal means determining specific content to be reviewed or the concepts that you need to discuss. At the end of each study session, then do your agenda for the next session, right? And then you also can assign responsibilities to each member of the team so that they come prepared for the next session. Teaching concept, each group member is assigned a responsibility to teach a concept and they have to participate. Draw in the quieter members, but make sure that those quieter members don't remain quiet for the rest of the time. Everybody must be given an equal opportunity to be heard and to speak as well. Make sure that if you're assigning readings or chapters, that every single person is given a section to do a summary on. They must come to the group, they must review, they must make the summary, and then they must teach it to everybody else. Lastly, every member should be fully prepared and committed in order for the group to be successful. If you're finding that the group is dwindling off, call people aside, speak to them, and ascertain what is the reason why the person is feeling that they don't want to be part of the group any longer. If it can be remedied, then do so. Otherwise, you can give the person the option to leave the group. I think that brings us to the end of the presentation. If there are any questions, I think we can unmute the mics. You can also type it in the chat if you'd like. I'm also going to share with you our contact information. It will also be posted in the chat. If you need to send us an email, our email is up on the screen, or you can also book an online session with any one of the counsellors. And our after-hour support service resources that we use include Lifeline, ZAG, and there's a 24-hour Lifeline as well, and the Lifeline day number for you there on the screen. Okay, Sma, I'll leave this on for a few minutes and then I'll take any questions from the floor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hendricks, for such an informative presentation. Yes, we have a couple of questions on the Q&A session. Since we are on live event, the student cannot able to raise their hands, and then they are posting their questions there, and then we will assist each other with colleagues to read through those questions. Number one, we have a question whereby the student is asking, how can one avoid working with people who are not actively participating, expecting to receive, but does not contribute? That's question one.
Okay, so that's a common problem. You'll find even where there are modules or courses that require teamwork. It so happens that every group that I've ever helped, there's always a strong member that's coming to see me for counselling, who's complaining about weaker members in the group, who are going to bring down the whole group. And usually it's the groups that have to work in teams for a mark, okay? And they have a team project. I often say you need to address it with the person concerned and say, this is what the group has been noticing. You are not participating. You haven't come for so many meeting sessions. Do you want to be part of this group or not? Remember earlier on as well, I asked, I'm going to go back to that slide for you. I said there's certain questions you need to ask in the very beginning when you are doing your group. Is this person motivated to do well? So when you advertise your group and people start responding to your advert, you need to say to them, why do you want to be part of a group? Have you been part of a group before? You know, what motivates you to be part of this group? How do I know that I can trust that you will remain an active member in this group, that you will attend all of the sessions and that you will participate? You know, find out if this person in some way, I ask them, how do I know that you are dependable, that you are somebody that if you're given a task, you'll actually be able to deliver on your task? So you wanted to ascertain, you wanted to get a sense of this person. If you're the person that's advertising, my suggestion is you put up the advert and you try and do either an online face-to-face individual meeting with each person, like 10 or 15 minutes just to get to know the person, and you get a sense of that person while you're interacting with them. You can suss them out. You can ask them about their past experiences. You can ask them about their marks and how well they've done before. If they've done poorly, you can say, why have you done poorly? They'll give you the reasons. If they've been a part of a group before, ask them what was their role in the group. Did they manage to meet all of the deadlines? Did they manage to complete all of the tasks? You know, how were they responsible and so forth? And then you can also explain some of the group rules, that if you're found to be absent or not participating or not giving in work that you're supposed to give in, you will then be terminated from the group. I think it's important to be very firm, especially when you have the right to do so, because it's your group. It's not a group assigned via the university or via your lecturer. In this sense, these are volunteer study groups that you are wanting to put together yourself. Don't be shy. Just terminate the person from the group, because remember, one person can bring down the whole group. So if you're somebody that's going to tolerate that, then you're going to have that kind of person be part of your group. My sense is that put the boundary and say, I'm sorry, but you can't be part of this group because you've had 2 incidences where you've not participated or you've not handed in work. I hope that answers the question. Next question.
Okay. Next question. So most of the students are saying they don't know how to join their study groups. How can we get the people that are studying the same thing? Can I quickly jump on that one?
Sure.
If you are a Unisa student, you are a Unisa student, you are already allocated a group modules. Let's say you are doing 3 or 5 modules. Out of all those modules, there is different groups that you are allocated for. If you go to your My Unisa, to your module dashboard, it's where you will find the people that you are grouped with. And then what is nice there, you can able to extend the group, like create the WhatsApp group. And then there is also a e-tutor that is responsible for your group as well, in case you want to post a question for the tutor or your lecture. The e-tutor is there to take care of your questions or your concern or your suggestion. But if you are doing, for example, maybe it's a BLT 1501, for example, you will click on the module. If you go to the module and then to the dashboard, it will give you the platform where you can able to communicate with the people, with other students who are doing exactly the same module that you are doing. And those people that you will find in that BLT are the only people who are doing BLT. And then you can start there formulating. It's either it's your WhatsApp group or whatever, or a Telegram, whatever the case might be. But you'll find the people there. Use the right platform, student. Go to My Unisa first. It will give you the option to create whatever platform that you are comfortable with. Even the Facebook. There is even a Facebook group, but the first start is to sort out your My Unisa logins so that you can able to access those people who are doing exactly the modules that you are doing. Same with the second modules, because you might find that the person that is doing a PLD with you is not doing maybe ENG, but you are doing ANG, of which if now you want a English group, of which you will click on the specific module, it's where it will give you the platform to access the people who are doing English now, and you'll find that it's a different people from the people that you were grouped with it for the first module. So you start creating the groups from there. And if you are lucky enough, sometimes you find that the person that you are doing you are grouped with for the second module is also doing the first module, because at the end of the day you will communicate, you will exchange the WhatsApp numbers, you'll create your own WhatsApp group, only to find out maybe out of those 5 modules, the other maybe 10 or 15 participants are doing exactly the same modules that you are doing. That is how you can create your own group. But the first, Unisa is creating the groups for you to make things easier, because you cannot just guess maybe out of Google that this person is studying at Unisa or doing what. You have to log in using your Unisa credentials, of which is your student number plus your password. And then once you have done that, and then it's where you can access the people, and then you take it from there. I think that is clear then. And then you can then extend the communication platforms that you want to use as students. Either it's a Facebook or WhatsApp or Telegram, it will be then up to you, but you will be 100% sure that the people that you are dealing with are indeed Unisa student, because you obtained them from Unisa platform, of which is My Unisa. And if you are failing to navigate that for yourself, maybe you are a first year student, for example, I know it might be challenging. Just go to your nearest Unisa offices and go to Computer Lab. If you go to Computer Lab, you just tell them that you are new at Unisa, you don't know how to navigate My Unisa resources. If they can please assist you in terms of how do you access your module, e-tutor and group and so forth, and then they will guide you accordingly. I think that question has been answered then. And then I will move to the next question. It say, how do you deal with a group with members with a big egos? I think you can take care of that, Dr. Hendricks.
Yeah, I think, people with big egos tend to have the sense of self-importance, so they don't like it when you challenge them, because obviously you trigger them and you make them feel what their underlying feelings are, which is usually very small. I think that maybe, challenging them, getting the support from the other members in the group, bringing it to the attention that this is how they're being experienced in the group, is one way of doing it. It might not be met with the greatest of acceptance from the person, because obviously the person has a big ego for a reason. They don't think that there's anything wrong with them. So when you bring that to their attention, they're going to oppose what you say. But don't be afraid to state your case and to stand your ground, and to let them know what's going to be acceptable and what's going to be unacceptable. Don't allow that to infiltrate in the group. Don't allow that to influence the other members of the group. Just make sure that you assert yourself, and you can do that together with the rest of the other group members as well. And it needs to be, like I said, people that don't belong in the group should be terminated. But obviously first bring it to the attention. Because remember, working with people like that, it's very difficult. They can zap your energy. And don't let them in your inner circle. And the group is one of the inner circles that you're going to be developing. And like I said, because it's your group, you can decide who is part of it and who isn't. And you might have taken on the person initially, but nothing stops you from changing your mind. You can change your mind.
Tumelo, can you read out the question that you see from your side?
Other one here, it says, how do we interview potential group members when we hardly get to meet, especially for some of us who live in the rural areas and have limited internet connection?
Yeah, that's a difficult one because one of the Wi-Fi connectivity. But if there is a way through telephone, or maybe even if you do a, via WhatsApp, you can do voice notes. So you can ask them questions via voice note and they can respond via voice note, and you can it's going to take a lot out of you to be able to assess. And you might think, but I'm not experienced in assessing people. And it might take many different groups that you're going to start before you get au fait with knowing who to let into the group and who not let into the group. I'm not saying the first group you're going to start is going to be the perfect group, but you will learn. It will be a trial and error. You will learn as you go from one group to the next group.
Some of the questions here, I think they asked them before SMA give the outline of the information of my Unisa, because they keep on asking how they can get other students to join the group or where they can advertise the group, of which I think SMA actually elaborated that very well. But I'm still trying to check other questions on my side.
The other question that I saw, it's where the student was asking, can I be in a group with a person who is based in Durban or KZN, whereas I'm not in KZN? And then to answer that, yes, you can. Because number one, we have the teams in place right now. Right now, we have students from different provinces, from Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, Gauteng, Limpopo, and KZN. So it is doable. It is doable as long as that student is passionate about what you guys are doing. You make a time, as Dr. Hendricks explained, and then at this time, and then we'll be meeting in this platform. Yeah, it is doable. You don't have to be maybe in a group with a person who's staying in your province or in your town or city. No, it can be whoever. Like the group that you are allocated to there on my Unisa, they don't look at your address, actually. They don't look that you are a KZN-based student, so we're going to group you with a KZN now. They just pick randomly, only to find out that the other student is in Gauteng, other one in Limpopo, other one in Mpumalanga, just like that, as long as you are doing one and the same thing. So it is doable, in short. Okay, I can see Mobile's screen there.
Okay, I think there's a concern here that on the evaluation form, there is no heading for today's workshop, which means the Power of Study group is not under the workshop, under the list of the workshop.
The list
Dr.
of the
Hendricks.
workshop. Oh, okay.
Yes.
If you can quickly edit that, Dr. Hendricks.
Okay.
Okay. There, Mobile. Yes. You can go then to your module. Can you see student? She started with putting the Unisa student number plus the password. And then now is this page with your names, initials and surname. Yeah. Once you put your login, Jay, as you go there to your modules, and then you click on the module, because it's supposed to give you the drop-down list of the modules that you are currently registered for. If you click it to that more specific module, maybe module number 1, and then it's where you will see the platform. It's like a chat, like a chat. And then it's where you can see the option that, I can type here. Here are the other people asking something, and then you will also see the e-tutor there. Yeah. Check the other questions, Tumelo, from your side. Can you see anything?
Well, it's almost a repetition of some of the questions that you've answered while you were demonstrating.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of the students, they actually want to be directed how they can form study group, of which they can get the contact details of other students on my Unisa platform.
Yes. I do see one question. Will leadership be an important aspect as an individual when starting and managing a study group? I think that if you start a study group, it's a nice way of learning to develop leadership skills. Because if you're somebody that's an introvert or somebody that's shy and you don't interact much, through this process of maybe being a moderator, for example, I said everybody will get a turn to be a moderator. You will get an opportunity to send out the link. You will draw quieter members in. It will force you to speak. being being expected to be an active participant in the group also forces you to speak. So it forces you to hear your voice in a group context, a much smaller context. And I find that many students who struggle with talking out aloud in bigger groups, the study group is a nice, small, safe space where you can start listening to your own voice and being unafraid of your own voice in a smaller group, and then you are able to transfer to a bigger group. What it slowly does, inadvertently, what that starts doing, it makes you start feeling confident about yourself. It makes you confident about sharing your opinions and your ideas with other people, because in that group, there's like-minded people. They are your peers. There's no one in that group that's intimidating of a lecturer standard, for example, who's going to laugh at you or put you down, because everybody is on the same level. So slowly but surely and progressively, you start learning the skill of asserting your voice, speaking up, sharing your opinion. And those are also leadership qualities. You're able to assert what you have to say. Right? It requires you to, being a leader requires you to be able to communicate and to communicate clearly with other people, to be able to collaborate with other people, to be open to other people's opinions and to share ideas between people, to debate and accept criticism and give criticism. Those are all qualities of a leader, which you will, if you haven't come in with it, you will learn it through that group process. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. And then any more questions, Tumelo? No, I don't see anything from my side. Zoo, can you see anything from your side?
No, I just saw one question that I responded on the chat.
Can I answer on this one? I think it's an authentication issue. I think with the authentication issue, Tando, you can always opt on other options. Instead of downloading the app, you just need to click on other, and then it will give you the space to put your cell phone number. Then you will receive an SMS. So instead of frustrating yourself about the authentication issue with regards to the app, you just need to click on other, then you put your cell phone number, then you'll receive a code. That is out of this group, but I think it will help other students, because that's something that frustrates students when they log in on my Unisa.
I see a question here. Isn't it important for study groups to have rules that must be followed by every respectful student in order for the group to meet its goal and purpose? If you were here towards the beginning of the presentation, I said it's important that you develop the rules. If you're forming the group, you form the rules, and then other group members can add on to those rules. Like, for example, each member must respect another person, give each person a chance to speak, and make sure that every person feels heard, be open to other people's ideas and so forth. Those are all rules that you can develop. Other rules include, if you're absent from a group for more than 2 times or 3 times, you'll be terminated from the group. If you dominate the group, all of these things can be developed by you guys as the group members in that group. But certainly any group that is formed has to have rules. An agenda is another rule. Making sure that you have a moderator for each session might be another rule. Yeah, you must have the rules.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hendricks, for your presentation, and thank you so much once again to you students. I think we have now come to an end of our workshop.
There's another question, sorry.
Okay.
May I ask, what is the meaning of metacognitive?
Hmm?
What is the meaning of metacognitive?
That's a question for assignment. Yes?
Metacognitive really is, when you think deeply about your own thoughts. Okay, so it's like thinking about your thinking, metacognitive. Like how can I put it? Like what do you use? How do you understand how you do your planning, how you do your monitoring and tracking? How do you, what process do you use in order to do that? So it's thinking about those kinds of things. And remember, to have metacognitive abilities, you also have to be somebody that's very self-attuned or self-aware. That's like the best I can explain it. I don't know if that makes it easier for the person to understand. Somebody says basically the study group will be formal. Yes, it has to be formal, because I think when you make it social, then it's no longer a study group, it loses its essence. How can one avoid working with people who are not actively participating, expecting to receive? But no, I think we've answered that. I think we answered this question. What are some of the potential challenges of participating in a study group? And what role does leadership play in a study group? I think we covered the leadership one. The challenges might be that there would be people that don't contribute to the group discussions or don't complete the tasks assigned to them, or maybe poor attendance could be some of the possible challenges, or maybe you might find that you bring quite a bit to the group and other people are just not carrying their weight. These things have to be addressed. You can address it through the moderator, or you can address it to the individual person or people that are not participating. I think we should stop there, Smart, because we've gone past our 1 hour. And it's unfortunate we can't get to every question.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much. We have come to an end of our session. Please, student, make sure that you complete the evaluation that has been posted to the Q&A. Please repost the link for evaluation for those who didn't see it earlier on, so that they can complete it. And then as well, since you have joined using your email addresses, and I'm sure most of you have used your My Life account to join this event, we will share the YouTube channel link, the recording for this presentation on your email addresses as per your email account. So thank you so much once again. And then I have one announcement before we can leave. And then tomorrow we are having a study skill workshop. Same time, same place. It will be on Teams Live, 12 o'clock. Tomorrow we are doing the study skills session. So please join, and then so that you can maybe you'll obtain more study techniques that you can use that might work for you during your studies. So please, let's meet again tomorrow for study skills session. Thank you so much once again, student. Thank you and goodbye.